Let's continue exploring the universe within art and the art behind farming. I'm your host, OmLedu, and this episode we're going to build a super simple wither skeleton farm. This video was requested by YouTube BPC. Thank you so much for leaving a comment and a request. I really hope that you enjoy. This is definitely, by far, the easiest way to farm wither skeletons. You don't need any wither roses, you don't need to find the spawn spots. All you need is this right here. Just a simple trapped piglin in a boat with a trident killer. And technically, this will farm more things than just the wither skeleton. You will get the drops from all of the other mobs that spawn in the fortress, but you won't get very many of them because they're not actually attracted to the piglin. But the wither skeletons totally are, so you will get lots of skulls from this farm. You will also get lots of stone swords that you will have to get rid of. Here are all of the materials that you will need in order to build a single bait trap. But a single one won't give you the best rates, so I would recommend at least building 2 of them. And best of all, you can expand this at any time. You can start off with just a single bait trap, and then add more as you see fit. But of course, the first thing we need to find is a nether fortress. Now ideally, you want to find one that is above a lava lake, that is not buried, and does not have very many platforms nearby for things to spawn on. All of these things will help you improve the rates. Now bridges are totally fine for this farm, but really these rooms that have fence windows have more spawn spots, but they do require more work and they tend to be more centralized. And I will go into more detail about this in the next episode, but for this one I want to keep it as simple as possible. For the sake of simplicity, we want to build this somewhere near the outer edge where there isn't much area for other mobs to spawn. But this bait trap will attract wither skeletons within 14 blocks in every direction. So really you can build this anywhere that you want to inside of the fortress. For this example, we're going to build it right here on these crossroads. We're going to place 4 buttons to block spawns and to mark the center of our trap. Then we're going to clear out the nearby area to make sure that mobs can wander around the bait trap. Because the kill chamber is only going to be on one of the sides, so the mobs will have to walk around it to get to the kill chamber. But we're going to surround this on 3 sides with walls. So our kill chamber is going to be on the side that doesn't have any walls. So you might want to point that toward a direction that you think more skeletons will spawn. But either way, they will walk around the walls to get to the kill chamber. But we also need to make sure that they can't fall off of the platform, so we'll extend it out just a bit. Once you have that made, it's time to go find a piglin. Now you want to find one with a sword, and you want to put it in a boat with a chest, so that nothing else can enter that boat. You also want to make sure to name tag this piglin so he doesn't despawn, and now you just need to drag him over to your bait trap. So one trick is to use blocks or scaffolding in order to lift the boat up off the ground. If you pillar up or you climb scaffolding, the boat will kind of float around with you. So this can be a little awkward, especially if you're not used to using boats to move mobs around, but just keep in mind that you can always pillar up and use scaffolding to get them where you're trying to go. We also want the piglin holding a sword to be relatively centered above the 4 buttons. We don't want him to be too close to the walls or too close to the front. But right here in the front, we need to place trapdoors on the sides of the blocks that have the buttons on them, and then on the 2 blocks opposite of that. Those trapdoors need to be where you see here. Now we need to place a piece of glass 3 blocks above the ground, so that there's 2 blocks of air under that piece of glass, like so. After that, we need to dig down 2 more blocks here in this hole. But be very careful because odds are that there will be lava underneath and you wouldn't want to fall into the lake of doom. Also be aware that wither skeletons will try to kill this piglin, but once you have this hole, the piglin will be forever safe. But before you have this hole, you need to be careful and keep him away from wither skeletons. But once you have this 3 block deep hole, everything will be okay. Now you will also need a platform down here because you will need access to this area. So either build this platform out of bottom slabs or out of glass, something that is spawn proof. You wouldn't want things to spawn down here in your collection system. But now we just need to build a trident killer. So place pistons on the 4th block from the top, in the center, 1 block away from each other, facing toward the inside. Now we need observers also in the middle, looking at each of these pistons. Then we need droppers on all 4 of the corners, and we'll be done with this section. Now we just need to place a lever on any of the 4 droppers, turn that lever on, and then turn that lever off. And the pistons should start moving in a pattern like so. So then turn that lever back on, and now we just need to build the bottom part and the collection system. So place blocks on the bottom of all of this like so. Now in the middle, go down by 2 temporary blocks so that we can place a double chest. and then have 2 hoppers pointed into the back of that double chest, and then 2 hoppers pointed into those. So the chest will be aligned with the edge, and the hoppers will be aligned with the center 4 blocks. Now we need to place some minecart with hoppers. So place a rail on one of the hoppers closest to the chest, and make sure it's pointed off in that direction. If it's pointed like this, we need to redirect it so it's pointing toward the back, like so. And then break out that back rail, and place a glass pane, then a minecart with hopper on top of that rail, and push this minecart all the way to the glass pane as far as it will go, so that it's in the middle of these 2 hoppers. Then break out that rail, and do the same thing on this side. Now before 1.21, I could use a single minecart with hopper on the trident killers, and it would work just fine. But now you have to place them either on the southeast corner, or place 2 of them. So, whichever you want to do is totally fine. Another bug is that mobs are getting pushed through the walls of a trident killer. Now I've never seen this happen with the dropper design until now, only ever seen it on the one that uses torches. But this right here is the dropper that we're powering with a lever, but in this case we're using a repeater, and you'll see later on why. But we just need to place an extra line of blocks surrounding the trident killer. So all the way around, surrounding the pistons and the droppers and the observers, all of that stuff, and now it will no longer push mobs through the wall. But once you've finished all of that, we just need to throw in a trident and we'll be done. And you can always throw in more than 1 trident for good measure. That will kill the mobs just a little bit faster. And we are now totally done with the first bait trap. So wither skeletons will aggro a piglin if they're within 14 blocks of that piglin. So this trap will work up to 14 blocks in every direction. So you could stop here, or you could build more of these. I would recommend building at least 1 more that is up to 28 blocks away from our first one. But in this case, 28 blocks doesn't cover very much area since it's the end of that bridge. So we're going to build it a little bit closer to the first one right here. So now these 2 are within 28 blocks from each other, and this new one will cover inside of this room and this other bridge over here. Having 2 of these near each other covers about a 56 by 28 area, which is a pretty good size. And we're going to build it the exact same way. So we need a piglin in a chest boat holding a sword that is name tagged so he doesn't despawn. Make sure that these trap doors are not on the left and the right, that they're next to the buttons and then on the opposite side. If they're on the left and the right, the wither skeletons will be able to reach him and they'll eventually kill him. But then we need to build a trident killer underneath this, and since it's going to be really close by to our other one, we can actually connect the redstone together as well as connect our platforms together. You could even connect the storage system if you wanted to, but we're just going to run redstone from one of the droppers to one of the droppers on the other side. Again, it doesn't matter which dropper that you power, but we're going to place repeaters next to those droppers so they don't send a back signal. Then we're going to just run dust and have a lever on it. And so now this lever should just power both of these droppers. And remember that if the signal isn't strong enough, you can just use repeaters to refresh the signal to make it reach. And you can build as many of these as you want to and connect them all to the same lever. But when you're done, just be sure to throw in a trident, and remember that you can throw in up to 4 to kill the mobs a little bit faster. But really for this, all you ever need is 1. Now we just need to build an AFK platform and talk a little bit about how to use this farm. So roughly in the center of all of your bait traps, we're going to build up by 25 blocks. Then once we're up here, we're going to build a platform out of something that is spawn proof. So either bottom slabs or glass. I would recommend glass so that you can actually see the mobs, because this isn't exactly AFK. Like it is, but because we're not spawn proofing, eventually mobs are going to build up and it's not really going to spawn skeletons. So we either need to go out until we see all of the mobs disappear, like there all of those mobs disappeared. Or we need to build up out of like scaffolding until we see all the mobs disappear. But I would recommend just building out because this gives you more adjustments. Basically, every time that you load this area to be spawned, a bunch of wither skeletons will spawn and run toward the pig. Now, if you see some wither skeletons just standing around doing nothing, all you have to do is adjust where you're standing. So we're going to back up until these wither skeletons disappear. And so we see that they've disappeared. So now we can stand right here, and we'll know that no skeletons will be able to spawn outside of the range of where our piglins are. Another thing you can do if you see wither skeletons standing around or mobs building up in a certain area, you can just go and spawn proof that area by placing down slabs or buttons. The more of an area that you spawn proof outside of the range of your piglins, the higher your rates will be, and you'll be able to AFK longer before needing to despawn all the mobs. Another thing we can do to improve the rates is make it easier for mobs to reach the piglins. So like on these bridges, we can break out these walls and then switch these fences with solid blocks. Just don't break out any of the floor. The floor contains the spawn spots for the wither skeletons. Or like these buildings, you can knock out the walls to increase the line of sight to the piglins. You can even expand the walls a little bit, revealing more of the floor, potentially revealing more spawn spots. Or if you have a second story where wither skeletons are spawning, like we had some up here because they were spawning over there, we can actually build them a staircase. Wither skeletons will jump down within 3 blocks. So you can just place a block diagonally down from each other, up to 3 blocks away from each other, and the wither skeletons will now use this as like a stairway whenever they aggro the piglins. So as you use this farm, just keep an eye out for what's happening. Like right there, that wither skeleton fell off into the lava, whereas that one used the staircase that we just built for him. So as you use this, you'll be able to see more opportunities to improve the rates. So like we don't need this spawn proofing up here anymore because of the staircase, but we do want to prevent them from falling off like that one just did. So we're going to build another platform right here to catch them if they fall off. Now you do want to avoid expanding the floor for no reason though, because wither skeletons cannot spawn on there, but other mobs can. But you could always avoid this problem by just spawn proofing the extra platforms that you build. But just keep an eye out for what's happening. It can actually be fun to watch and improve this farm as you go along. And you can even just AFK it and then come back occasionally and refresh all of the spawns. So if you ever notice that there's not very many wither skeletons, but there's tons of other mobs, then just walk out of range until all the mobs disappear, and then come back to your AFK area and start it all over again. And it's really cool that you can keep working on and keep expanding this farm. You can always build more bait traps, expand the spawn proofing, and you can even add wither roses at some point, which would help dramatically. And that's why in the next episode, we'll be going into more detail about these mechanics, how things work, and how you can use wither roses to maximize the efficiency of this farm. So if better rates or a fully AFK design is what you desire, be sure to tune in next time. But that's all we got for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, share, and subscribe, and be sure to leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this design, what you did or didn't like about the video, or if you have any questions or requests, and I will do my best to help you out. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you again soon. But until then, I've been your host, OmLedu, building a fancy farm with you, and reminding you as always, don't forget to have fun. Bye bye!